Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Tuesday. It is June 6th, 2023, and we are having one of our Agent Panelist Series. This one in particular is about your sphere of influence and how to treat that basket of business and nurture your past clients in your sphere to be able to build that bucket of business for yourself. We have a panel today that is full of people that have done an incredible job with that. And I'm excited to share with you and let them share with you the type of things that they do in their business. So we'll just go around. We've got Faust from Delaware, Paula Miller from Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and Charity Buntz from Virginia Beach. So one of the things that I know a lot of people have wanted to see from the growth is kind of where we start to bring everything together. And that's part of the exercise here. We're able to hear these voices from all over the footprint that work in different markets that have different dynamics and things like that, and kind of pull it all together and hear what works, what doesn't. Maybe I want to try that and things like that. So appreciate everybody taking the time to come out. I hope you're excited, and we're going to do more of these. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. Panelists, if you don't mind, I just kind of want to go through and I'll call on you. Just want to hear, a little bit about how long you've been licensed and what do you do when you're not selling houses? Let's kind of see the person behind the curtain here. So Paula, if you don't mind, I will start with you.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for asking me to be one of these panelists. I'm 36 years in the business this month. Wow. And when I'm not selling homes, over the years, my ideas have changed on what I like to do. And most of you know that what I like to do now is spend time with my family and my grandson, especially. As you can see, I tout him all over Facebook. He's one of my biggest proponents for keeping up with my sphere of influence. So and Greg and I travel to Florida now as well. So we kind of split our time a little bit in Florida, not as much as we thought we might. But we're down there 3 or 4 months out of the year and still working while I'm there.
Every time you come back, there's listings hit in the market. So you keep the ball moving even when you're out of town. That's awesome. Perfect. All right, Mr. Faust.
Good morning. I'm honored to be asked to participate and contribute where I can. 37 years in the business this year. And when I'm not selling real estate, well, I have 2 sons. One's 26, one's 22. So I like to follow their new careers, spend time with them when I can, and of course my wife. But I do, I spend a lot of time in the gym and not as much time in the golf course. But as I'm getting up in age, I just try to stay active.
That's an important thing for all of us, especially, when we get busy and we start putting so many miles in, showing houses and a lot of desk time, pushing the paperwork. You got to stay active to keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, it really is more mental than physical for me to go to the gym. It's just a release.
I can see that. That can be important too.
Yeah.
All right, Charity, let's hear from you.
Good morning. It seems I am the baby agent on this panel, as I've only been licensed 9 years. When I'm not selling real estate, I like to golf as well, but most particularly I play a lot of darts, which is also a very large part of my sphere.
That's awesome. I think you don't just play darts, you're like kind of good at that, right?
I'm okay.
Very, very cool, guys. Appreciate you sharing that little bit. So understanding a sphere of influence is kind of difficult for a lot of people because they think I've met tons of people in my life. I know a lot of people, lots of people know me. So to your people that you talk about in your sphere, how many people do you put in that? Paula, you look like you were going to perk up and say something. So go ahead, you can start.
You kind of blanked out, Mike. Your value or your voice blanked out on us. So I'm not 100% sure we heard the entire question, but I think you're asking me where my sphere of influence comes from and how I work it. Is that what you're asking me?
I was actually asking how many people you consider are in the bucket. And this is a rough number, guys. This isn't, I want 452. It's about how many people do you put in your bucket for your past clients in your sphere? How many people do you count that as?
Wow. It's kind of hard to, like you say, to pinpoint that number. But one of the things I looked at last night was my social media account.
Okay.
I kind of looked at, okay, I have two accounts that I probably work most, and that's my personal account and the Miller team account. My personal account has almost 2,000 people in it. I was kind of impressed with that number. I was actually kind of surprised by it because I had not checked that in quite a while. My Miller team account, or our Miller team account, has just shy of 600. So working that sphere of influence on a daily basis, gosh, is to me, on a daily basis is probably posting something.
Okay.
Actually post something of value that I think that people will respond to. And lately I've been doing some inspirational quotes and getting a lot of interesting traction on them.
I think that's an interesting way to go about it because people are going to say, wow, that really resonates with me today. I appreciate you sharing it or something like that. Or, oh, that was me last week. I think it's something people can easily identify with. Not everybody's a kid person or a dog person, but I think that you're going to resonate with somebody every time you do something like that. Very cool. Skip, how about you?
Well, I have to confess, some of my shortcomings, and social media is one of them. So I don't have a track record of how many followers I have or how many people I follow. That's still something that we're working towards. And having been in the business for 37 years, I mean, we have a bucket of past clients that exceeds probably 2,000, and sphere of influence that exceeds 6,000. But obviously you can't work that on a daily basis. And that is really just old school, mailing list names. And we're still working towards that. We're made a little transition here in my little office within an office, and bringing Avery Withers on board, who is helping me collect more of this information and get it organized. But having been in business 37 years, I can't imagine. It's sitting back and just realizing how poor of a job I've done in getting organized with my sphere of influence, past clients, customers. I saw in one of your questions, Mike, when you sent us, the panelist questions, one of the options was, or do you just wing it? And I hate to say that I just wing it, but that kind of fits me, but better than the others.
I appreciate your honesty. I really do. For those that don't know, Skip's been one of the top agents in Delaware for a number of years. So it doesn't always have to be, pen and paper in your software every day. You just need to find a method that works for you. And I think that's a big takeaway. But I appreciate your honesty with that, Skip, because you're human, right?
Yeah. And like I said, when you asked me to think about being on the panel, I said, gosh, Mike, I don't really have a special sauce. I wish I did. I don't really have a system. I wish I did. But I'm here as a pupil as much as a panelist to hear what other people are doing.
Well, I hope you get something that you can take away and put to work, because you do very, very well with your business. And, that's the whole point of this, is to be able to share with each other and hear how different people do different things. And it might work for somebody. So Charity, how about you?
Yeah, I have a little bit more of a system in place, I would say. I don't think it matters how many you have. Obviously, you want to get more than a few. I think in mine currently that I actively market to, it's about 220. But it's not about how many. I don't think there can be too many as long as you can keep up with it. I think the important thing is I do a ranking system. So I've got my A+, my A's, my B's, my C's, and my D's. So you want to spend more time with those A+ and A's. And there's supposed to be some type of exactly where you put them in the bucket. But for me, it's just like, how confident am I that they're either going to use me, Or if their mom, brother, best friend's getting ready to buy a house or sell a house, that they're going to say, oh, you have to call this girl. That's my A plus, right? The people that I'm pretty sure are going to call me, they're my A. The B's they were definitely a past client. I know they don't hate me. And then when you get to the C's, sometimes they're more business partners. And then the D, honestly, if I get that far, you could probably just throw them out, right? Or just keep them on your email marketing list. So I don't think the exact number matters as long as you're making sure you're spending the right time with the right people and putting the majority of your efforts on the people more likely to get a return from.
That makes sense. And I understand that. I think an important thing to remember is that every time you get some of those A+ people or some of those raving fans, they become a mouthpiece and a marketer for you. That they're the ones that are out there saying, oh, you need to call this person. You need to call Mike because he takes really good care of you, or he does things a certain way that I really like. You should just check him out. I think there's a lot of value to that. Paula, was there something you were going to add to that? It looked like you were going to start talking and I cut you off.
I'm sorry. I saw, but as soon as I go, it acts like I'm going to talk. But it's interesting to hear Charity's response, because she's been in the business a shorter amount of time than Skip and I. Skip and I have been in the business since dinosaurs walked the earth, and we were trained to sit at a desk and pick up a phone to start working your business. So a lot of what agents do in maybe the past decade or so is not as popular a choice with Skip and I, and or we even think about doing it that way. The repeat business that comes back to us from the years we've been in business is, to me, one of the strongest proponents for us to continue working, is people that we've done business with in the past, are still out there, still in our sphere of influence in some fashion. Either we worked with them, our children played sports with them, we went to church with them, somewhere we've connected with them, and we continue to do that. That's where I think a strong suit really comes into play the more years you're in business.
So, Mike, can I say something that I think especially Skip and Paula probably aren't saying that they do, and it's probably just so natural that it's just kind of one of those things. This is not a planned thing I do, but this is who I am and why I do it. No customer that you ever talk to that's probably worked with any of those, and most of my agents, to be really honest, but especially these two, do not think that they are the bee's knees. All of their clients are ravings fans of theirs because of the customer service and how they treat them and how important these agents treat that client and the specialty of that client to them. They use them as individuals, not as a deal. And I think the clients remember that and refer them business because of that, and creates a sphere of influence without maybe as quite a big a lift sometimes because of how you've treated that client through the experience. And I say that just because I know both of you and I know your personalities, and I think you guys take it for granted because that's how you do business. But I do think it's important for the rest of the teams to realize that that customer experience or that customer service or whatever you want to call it probably does multiple folds of you as far as repeat business and sphere of influence, I think. So if you want to give any input on that, you can, but outside looking in, I'm just going to tell you, I think that's a really big component.
Does anybody want to elaborate on that? Go ahead, Skip.
Well, I was just going to say, I think he's very insightful, because, I don't want to take it for granted, but, clients become friends, and I would hope that the experience was such that they would want their family members to also be treated as well as they were treated. So hopefully that means something, and I think that it does to a lot of people without necessarily having a quarterly or monthly follow-up. It's, we hope, of course, with a quarterly or monthly follow-up, it would be ideal, but sometimes it's not always executed. But we hope that they remember who they did business with and why, and they extend that that goodwill to family members and friends. And that really is the sphere of influence. I mean, in my estimation, but there's, whether it's a church or whether it's sports or whether it's those you meet at, a book club. So there's obviously different spheres and different groups. But I kind of lump them all into one.
That makes sense. Go ahead, Paula.
Mike, I was going to say that, I partnered with my son, Adam, 9 years ago. That also took our business in a wonderful, different direction, not different direction, but additional direction. Let's put it that way. Adam is a millennial and I'm a baby boomer. And I always say we cover all the generations. And it also has enabled us to work a couple of new pockets of business or different pockets of business. And one of the things that we did, we partnered with a local school. Now, Adam's wife is a vice principal at one of our middle schools. So we partnered with her middle school. And that has given Adam a whole injection of business from that, from his wife being a part of the school board. And also in Shepherdstown, we have a local food pantry now, and we've partnered with the food pantry. And although most people don't even know this other than the people in the food pantry, but Adam and I supply all of the paper bags to that food pantry for all the needs that are taken out on a weekly basis. And so every couple of months, I just tell them, please come back to us when you need those bags. And we order 1,000 bags and just have them shipped right to the food pantry. And then she'll put that on social media, and then many, many people will comment on it. And we're not doing it for that purpose, but there's so many different little ways we can move our sphere around by picking up a little population of something.
I think that's an important thing to recognize that maybe a lot of people don't consider is this doesn't just have to be family and friends. This can be pockets of people that you network with. Somebody made the example of the families that are around your kids at school or soccer practice. And then, many people have a robust church family. And then many people have past clients or people you grew up with. And sometimes maybe you need to dial it up or down in a certain area or take time to focus on one bucket over the other. But I think that's an insightful topic to bring up, Paula. I appreciate you doing that. So one of the things that I wanted to go to is, do you do anything special for past clients that you wouldn't do for the rest of your sphere? When you close a property and you close on a transaction, is there any kind of a follow-up plan, that you do for the first year or so with past clients?
I'll start. I don't particularly do anything different myself. I, give a gift. They're probably closer, to my AA plus at that point. So they might be more in my rounds of doing pop-bys or sending cards. I definitely make sure I try to hit their birthday, whether it's, good months, I'm writing cards. Busy months, I'm just on Facebook, like, happy birthday. But, just trying to touch base. But no, I wouldn't say I particularly separate them out and be like, oh, they've not bought a house with me yet, so they don't get the good stuff.
Can't have the good stuff until you bought the house, right? Paula?
I'm not sure that I can really say that we follow up in a sense of sending them a new gift later or something, but we do give out branded gifts. Our gifts are branded, and we've used branded gifts for years. We've changed them up over time. Mainly because years ago, I used to give music CDs, and everybody loved them, but CDs are so obsolete now. But I've had people come back to me to sell their homes, and they'll show me the CD they still have. Or I got an email from a client whose home I sold, 12 years ago. And she said, it's Christmas time. I got out my music CDs, and every Christmas I think about you as I'm playing them. Or we used to give out key rings. Now, a lot of people don't use keys anymore, but we gave out branded key rings, and somebody will come back to us and they'll still have their branded key ring hanging on their car key or their house key that they hand us to sell their house again. So I do think that a branded closing gift is a popular way of making sure that people remember you. And and chances are they'll be more likely to come back.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Skip, what you got?
Yeah, what we do with our past clients, a couple things come to mind. And you mentioned, it was always my intention and it never got implemented. And I just want to share this with the group. I think it's an awesome idea that I heard somewhere, but again, I have not followed up on this particular system, is to give a call 1 week after they've bought their house. Everything fine, anything I can do for you. 1 month after, 6 months after, and then 1 year after, congratulations on their anniversary. But I just recently have started putting in my phone, the date of their settlement, so that I will be notified, on that date a year from now. So at least I'll be able to get them on their anniversary. But 1 week after, 1 month after, 6 months after, and 12 months after has always been something that I have actually thought was a great idea, but it's not something that I've actually executed. However, what we do execute when we close a sale, part of the checklist is to, we have what we refer to as a happy accounting letter. So it gets printed at time of settlement, and then it gets put aside, and they get mailed out on January 20th of the following year. That says, here's a copy of your settlement statement. You may be looking for it to do your taxes. We've had a lot of clients call us and say, hey, can I get my settlement statement? I'm doing my taxes. So that's what kind of prompted that. And that's something that we've done for many, many years, that on January 20th of the next year, we've got a form letter and their settlement statement going out hard copy. And I think, with Avery, we'll maybe be able to generate that in an email version as well. But to date, it's just really been going out hard copy. I'm trying to think. Oh, and then of course, with a follow-up letter, something that you do with a past client, seller or buyer, that we don't always do with everyone else, is, we say we send them a thank you. Hope your experience was awesome. Please share your experience and give us a review. So again, that's something that we've also been doing hard copy, but just had a conversation with Avery yesterday about doing an email so they can actually just click and give the review rather than having to go to the website, plug in the input, the website address or whatever. So that's something that Avery and I just spoke about yesterday, how we can do better on receiving reviews. But those are the things that we kind of distinguish past clients as opposed to just fear.
I think that one thing I want to call up for everybody to hear is both Skip and Paula, who have both been in business in excess of 35 years, haven't kept the same thing in place. They've evolved things as they've done them over time. So don't forget to go back and revisit some of your steps in your process and reinvent them a little bit. It doesn't have to be often, but don't let anything go stale. I think the example that Skip just made about asking for a review, yes, we need to do that. But where the review is important has changed over the past several years. So you've got to be able to evolve and incorporate that. I think that's huge. I'm a big fan of sending out the tax letter as well, Skip. I think that's a very helpful thing, because if somebody sells their home or buys a home or both in January or February, and they've moved and they've situated into a new house, the odds that their important papers are going to be in a box somewhere and they know about where it is, but they don't know what box it is pretty high. It just is. That's the nature of moving. So anything you can do to be helpful and let them know you're thinking about them, it's a small pebble that makes a huge ripple in the pond of your relationships, I think. So, okay. Real easy one here. Do you use a CRM, and which one is it? Paula, go ahead.
I do not.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, just like Skip. I even had to look it up again. What the hell does the CRM mean? But I'll tell you what I do use, and I get laughed at about it. I have probably 25,000 saved emails because I bucket all my clients into emails into streams of emails that if I have a question on any past client or any house I sold or whatever, I can go back to that email and pull it up, which is why since 1994, I have kept my Yahoo account. And that is why I always, no matter if I get a Premier Move or a Google or whatever anybody else wants me to use, I tie everything back to my Paula Online at yahoo.com. I'll never forget the first day that the young man in my office at the time created an email for me. It was 1994, and he asked me what I wanted it to be. I said, I don't know. He said, how about Paula Online? I said, sounds great. And that's who I've been since 1999. I've never changed that. I've never changed my cell number either. Those two things, in my opinion, you should never change. It's amazing how many people change their email address. But anyway, so I'll give you an example. Last week, Adam and I went out on a listing, and it was a repeat client whose home we had sold him the house in 2016, and he ready to move on and list the house with us again. So Adam's going through all the paperwork with him, and I'm going back through my emails, and I'm going into my little portal with his name on it, and I'm looking for all the documents that we had when we sold him the home, including health department records, plats, covenants and restrictions, things that I don't have to reinvent again because I got them right there in my email. So I was pretty proud of that. To me, that system is foolproof for me. So that's what I use.
I think that's the important thing, is it's what works for you. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a Post-it note that's scratched black and you can barely read it, but if that helps you feel comfortable, and that's what you're going to use, I think that's really the key of it. And I appreciate you being honest. I think a lot of people hear about top producing agents or people that have been in it for a long time and think they've got a lot of this stuff that's assumed that they use and do, and it's not necessarily a textbook approach. This is a business that you can find your own way and processes, and so I appreciate you both being honest about that. Charity, how about you?
You know, I have a CRM.
You do.
Yeah, so I originally got into Brian Feeney very early on. So I was using the Referral Maker, which is a very awesome CRM. It is. I mean, earlier somebody mentioned anniversary dates of home buying and such. I mean, you know, that stuff that you can plug in there. I've got their kids' birthdays, their kids' names, their pets' names, all of that. Just so if I'm going to write a card or even something on Facebook that I spell their kid's name right, you know. So I really like that. However, the Engage CRM is just as functional too. I have transported everything over, but you know, you get so used to using what you've been using for a long time. So I haven't fully moved on from my Referral Maker because I have everything in there, and I would kind of have to recreate a little bit of at least my notes and details. But yeah, that's what I've used thus far.
Very cool. And what Charity was referencing is Engage is the CRM that the company provides to us at no cost. So if we can help you utilize that tool, reach out to your manager, and we're happy to do that. Charity, with some of the details that you mentioned there, I wanted to ask, to get like the pet's name or the kids' names or favorite sports team, whatever it is, do you have like an intake form that you use, or do you just pick that up through conversation? Tell me a little bit about how you get that information.
I just take notes. I mean, not like while I'm talking to them, but I mean, mental notes, and then I'll like put it in my phone when I'm back in the car, or if I see something they post on Facebook, I'll go put it in my notes, you know, if I just happen to see it. But no, I don't have them right out, and I don't try to make it obvious. I just try to take mental notes and then, you know, write it down so I don't forget later when I need it.
I think that makes sense. And, you know, again, everybody's going to do things different way, and you just kind of take notes and you do a little bit of research, stay engaged with people, pick up on the important information. And then, you know, you've got a way that you can reach out. And one of the things that I've heard that's a beautiful thing about keeping records as detailed as Charity does is, you know, let's say that it gets to the end of a sports season, you can say, oh, you know, congrats to all the, you know, whoever fans, you guys just won the championship, and you send out this massive text and you get all sorts of interaction, and it's a touch point that you can get.
I haven't thought about using that yet, but now I'm taking notes over here.
I mean, we're in baseball playoffs and stuff like that, hockey and NBA and everything, so it's all on the table. Well, I guess we're not baseball, sorry. We're just getting started with baseball. Anyway, so Do you use or have you used any third-party programs like the magazines or client gifts like Client Giant and things like that? There's lots of vendors out there that will let you just stroke a check and they will mail your clients something or your sphere something. Do you use them or have you ever used them, and what are your thoughts on them?
I mean, I'll go. Yeah, I've used a few. So with the Buffini system, they actually, if you pay, I don't remember what it is because I don't currently do it, but like $150 a month, they send you enough mailers for 100. You have to pay extra if you want to pad the rest of your SOI, and then cards for the month that you can send out. So I used to do that, just a monthly mailer, put them in envelopes, send them out. Just useful information. Then there came a time where I was like, I have a backlog of a ton of cards and I can surely find something off the internet to print out and send to them without paying this extra $150 a month, right? So started just doing more things on my own, researching, finding something cool or something about the market and sending that instead. I did use American Lifestyle for a little while. People did like that. Might even go back to it in the future. I did get a lot of comments about it, like, oh, got your magazine the other day. So I don't think it's a bad idea. But once again, depends on who you got, because if you have, like Paula and Skip might have, 1,500 people, it's just not cost effective. So if you're not able to kind of pare that down to a manageable amount,
Mhm. I used American Lifestyle as well, Charity, for a while. Um, a lot of the third-party products require a lot of work on your own part to keep it up. You got to make sure those emails are updated every time it's going to go out. You got to either change it up and add new people, or I just find that it's too time consuming. I find a lot of them are too time consuming. So probably the one that I'm using the most now is auto post. I just have, I pay to have auto postings done. And I use, and that works pretty well, I think. It keeps people in touch with you, and it talks about some product or some style of home or some, do you like this barbecue pit? Do you like this, baby's nursery room, whatever. That's pretty much what we do now. Skip, what about you?
We are currently engaged with Home Actions. It's a third party. What attracted me to that company or that program was its exclusivity. When it was first presented to me some years back, was that if you put a client into Home Actions, no one else can put that client in. Another realtor and whatever it may be. So I'd have to defer to Avery to see how many people are on our Home Actions list, but certainly it's a couple thousand. And they're getting it seems like it's bi-weekly, every other week. It's really your boilerplate recipes, really, it's probably more than anything, it's just home maintenance ideas and staging and things like that nature. However, what I also like about it, and why I wouldn't do it, my family, my sons, my wife, they're like, oh, that's a waste of money. No one wants to get your boilerplate, this is a recipe for a cherry pie or whatever it may be. But we can customize it, and we can feature a listing of ours or multiple listings of ours that are going to hit those 2,000 people every other week. So that's just another way to market our properties, to say, it can become the reason why we're sending out this newsletter. Is in the subject line, it may say awesome beach house, but then there's also other information that they may become engaged with. So that was just, for me, it was really just a means of marketing a specific property to a sphere of influence mailing list that they might have a friend, or they may be in the market, or their children may be buying this year. But I have heard about Client Giant, and I wrote it down before, and I wrote it down again to look into, because I think that there's always ideas and new ventures to be at least considered. Trying to think if there was something else I wanted to add to that. I know we talked about birthdays, and one thing that I do in the way of sphere of influence is I just have my antennas up. If someone says, "Oh yeah, yesterday was my birthday," I'll go in my phone and just say, Bob Jones, birthday, June 5th, and then the next June 5th, if I have his contact, I'll send him a text message, happy birthday, Bob. I'm just a birthday that's just something I do. All my friends get a birthday wish for me on their birthday, and it just extended to clients or people that I really don't even know. Maybe it's a past customer or client, but maybe it's just an interaction that I had, and it just happened to be in conversation that they mentioned that they just had a birthday or their birthday's coming up, and I'll just make a mental note of that and put it in my phone. So I just, it's just one more touch. On that topic, I think it was probably Mike Ferry, he would send out, or so he said, he would send out a birthday wish to his sphere of influence once a year. And it would say, "Sorry, I missed your birthday." I thought that was pretty clever also.
That is awesome. You can do it in one fell swoop and you hit everybody.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I hadn't thought about that, but I actually really enjoy that too. Something my dad used to do that makes me think of birthdays, and I've seen the impact just in a different light, Skip, is if we were out to eat anywhere and the restaurant staff came out to sing happy birthday to somebody, he would get up, he'd go over, he'd introduce himself. He's a local CPA where I grew up, and he would give that person $1. And he'd just say, everybody deserves a birthday gift and everybody deserves to feel special on their birthday. So, here's what I can do for you. Hope it makes you special. And it was amazing that, $1 is not going to get you very far, no matter what anymore, but people just got a real kick out of it. And other people through the restaurant would sometimes do it too. And it just made that person feel special. So birthdays are a really good thing to highlight on if you can do that. Everybody likes to feel special, and it's kind of a day that's just for them. But I do like the approach of saying, "Oh, missed it. We'll catch everybody." So is there a technique when you reach out to your sphere at any time that's like a sure thing? If you were to reach out to somebody, different people will reach out and they'll say, I do a CMA and that's bound to get me some calls. Or I reach out and I say, "Hey, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell?" And if I make 10 of those phone calls, somebody's going to say, "You know what? My cousin Johnny, he's looking to buy something." Is there any kind of a touch point that you use that's kind of been old reliable for you to get some business?
CMAs work, whether it's your sphere or your neighbors or anybody, it does work. If I spend time doing 15 or 20 of them, I generally will get a return, but I don't necessarily consider that working. I don't know. I would say, one thing I've always gotten really, really good traction, at least a couple referrals or business out of, is client parties. So, I used to be a little bit more consistent and do something quarterly, whether it's just like a pie thing, or buy pies, have them come pick it up and serve, juice and what have you, or I've done summer parties. There's all kinds of things you could do to get your clients together. Almost always gets me business. Pictures on Facebook. Thank you, charity, for inviting us. Thank you for my pie. Always get a little bit of, that online traction with it as well. And then pop buys are very similar. When I do pop buys, a lot of times they will take a picture of it, put it on Facebook. Look at my awesome realtor dropped off at my house today. So that tends to get some traction too.
Very cool. And everybody, I think, well, I won't say everybody, a lot of people on this call have heard my rendition of why to do a CMA for past clients in Sphere. Charity, do you mind sharing what you do with that or why you do it?
Well, I do the CMA to get business. But no, I think, people are just very curious, whether they're interested or not. Sometimes people haven't even paid attention to the market. They've never thought about selling, and they go, "Oh, geez. My house is worth that much." Others might have called you anyway, but they go, "Oh yeah, by the way, I've been meaning to call you. I am looking to sell in the spring." Then you get to put them in that pipeline of, touch base, know that it's coming on, being able to plan your business a little bit, which is, part of the benefit of working your sphere, right? Knowing what's coming up and that you have some business. So I think, for one, people just appreciate it. For two, sometimes it gets them kind of off their butt and moving towards doing something. And three, they can let you know, gives them an opportunity to raise their hand.
I think that's huge. And that's very similar to how I feel, Charity, is, many times throughout a year, if you have investment accounts, you get a statement for what they're worth from your financial advisor. Your doctor wants to see you once or twice a year to check up on your health. You got to take the car in to get it looked at. As the real estate advisor to the people around us, shouldn't we share with them regularly what their home is worth roughly? Now, if we're going to take it to market, it may be a slightly different approach, but just FYI, here's what your home is worth roughly nowadays is really helpful information for people, and what it means to them can be anything. And they don't have to sell, and they may never sell, but it's valuable information they have a hard time getting on their own. Yeah, Paula.
Well, I was just reading the article that probably a lot of us got in our emails on 40 ways to get leads in 2023 with some really interesting ideas. Also a lot of third-party lead sources were also listed, but one of them was to go back to your closings from 2019, right before COVID started. And right before the market really started to ramp up and the appreciation in homes really rose, and go back and do a CMA for all those people on what they paid for their house in 2019 and what it's worth today. And I thought that was a great, I thought that's really almost a no-brainer. That's a great little idea to do. So that's probably something I'm going to maybe work on here next, is look at our 2019 business, which coincidentally, are we going to talk about that, Mike? Are we going to talk about where our business comes from? I mean, not where our business comes from, but how our business has grown, and how much of it comes from sphere of influence, how much of it comes from lead generation, broker to broker, referral base. Were we going to talk about any of that, or?
Yeah, go. In fact, since you brought it up, if you want to go ahead, you can do that. Yeah, go ahead, Paula.
Okay. Well, one of the first things Steve taught me, and I thought was pretty invaluable, is no matter whether you're looking for a referral or a lead from being on a team, or just being in the office and you're hoping your manager is going to give you the next call that comes in, don't let more than 30% of your business come from sources that are not from your own sphere of influence. I'll never forget Steve teaching me that, or just saying that to me, that, keep your business, grow your business from your sphere of influence, not from what somebody else is going to hand you to try. Okay. So I've always kept that in the back of my book of business. And one of the things that Adam and I constantly do is we keep up from the time Adam started working with me. I have a growing email that every month goes out to our team that just keeps growing from 2015 to 2023, this closing, this month, year to date, how much we've done, how much volume it has been, whether it was a sphere of influence, whether it came from referral, whether it came from broker to broker, whether it came from agent generated referral. We keep those stats so we can kind of continue to watch our growth, as well as that we're keeping a balance and not relying too much on something else. Okay. So, so I pulled the last 3 years, especially because 2020 started off, as we all know, with a bang. When COVID came into play in early March, we all thought that, the world was going to end, and instead it did the opposite, for real estate anyway. So I've kept that little book of business going, and I thought it was interesting that over the 3 years combined, our sphere of influence was 70% of our business, which is exactly what Steve told me to do. Okay. And it started out in 2020, 57%. Then it jumped to 72% in 2021. And in 2022, it jumped to 81%.
Wow.
So I'm a stats person. I'm always looking at where did the business come from? And when we have a closing, where's our next business coming from? Is, did we lose one and gain one? If we aren't gaining after we've closed one, is it because the market's changing on us? Because I'm a big proponent for that too. It's like, oops, what's going on? Something's different. That's my little 2 cents today, Mr. Steve.
I think that one of the impactful things you said with that, Paula, is you track it, you measure it, so you're aware of it, and you can take conscious steps to fix it. You're not guessing.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know how you're going to fix it, but you can say, this is where I'm at. I got to get here. So you've got 2 of the points identified. You just got to connect the dots, however it's going to work. And I think that's the important takeaway there. I think that's awesome that you keep that close of a watch on that. And up to 80+% of your business being from SOI is commendable. That's phenomenal. So, Skip.
I wanted to mention on what I have found that is always able to generate something.
Yes.
And I sometimes dedicate way more time than necessary in a CMA. And a CMA can be 50 pages, but once I include photographs of other properties, the actually history on the market, what this house may have sold for previously, and maybe it was on the market, it started at $1,999,000 and now it's down to $1,695,000 and it still hasn't sold. There's always something to learn from these other experiences and other sellers' experiences. So sometimes the market analysis becomes very comprehensive for my own benefit, because those are the things that I want to look at. And my wife has told me, hey, Skip, they just want to know a number. They just want to know what their house is worth. However, it takes on a life of its own. So if I dedicate that much time in a market analysis for a specific homeowner, and again, he may stick it in a drawer, he may realize what the number is and never look at it again. But I many times have replicated that market analysis and delivered it by hand, knocking on doors to the neighbors. Now they don't know which house I was marketing, because I would take a picture of the neighbor's house and put it on the cover. And instead of calling it a market analysis, because I didn't come up with any conclusions, I call it a market activity update. So this is my 3-ring binder that I typically do my market analysis in. And this is actually one of those market activity updates with the neighbor's picture of their neighbor's house. And I knock on the door. I may or may not know them. Living in the same town for my entire life, if I knock on someone's door and I introduce myself as Skip Faust, chances are I'm there on a real estate topic. So it's suddenly, I'm handing them something, and you may find this informative, and they may say, oh, please come in. My son is moving back from North Carolina. We need a house. Or we're about to move to North Carolina to be closer to my grandchildren. We're thinking about selling. So that has really always generated something for me when I go through that exercise. But it's, I just try to get more mileage out of the market analysis than I did. And then that's really all that I'm trying to accomplish. Is I have this 125-page market analysis for John Public Seller. Now I can use that same 125 pages, rebrand it, take a picture of the neighbor's house, and deliver it to them as if it was done specifically for them as a market update. And I would consider it a market update. It isn't an analysis or an appraisal informing them of what their house might be worth. It's really just, you can draw your own conclusions by looking at this information, what your house might be worth. But that's
a really cool exercise.
It's involved, because of course it also requires getting out, loading the car up with 50 or 60 of these CMAs, and then walking door to door, handing them. And occasionally people have said, get out of here. Sometimes it can be a sensitive situation. My mother is dying of cancer. You're here because you heard such, and that you're trying to list my house. And I had no knowledge of any who even lives there. So occasionally you're going to bump into those very awkward situations, but mostly it's well received. And sometimes it will actually, sort of morph into something more.
You're the right guy on the right day that was there at the right time, and you have information that is relevant for something they're going to have to deal with, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Makes sense. And so Skip just said a big one, but you've heard all three of these panelists say that even after 10, 20, 30 plus years in the business, they are still taking actions regularly to reach out to people that maybe they know, maybe they don't know, maybe they haven't talked to in a while, to talk about real estate. So there are intentional steps that share with people or a group of people, I'm in real estate and I'm here to help however I can. Sometimes it's kind of just blanket information, and sometimes it's hey, this may be useful to you. I want to share it with you. But at no point in any of these agents' careers have they stopped reaching out to people and stopped trying to get their own business. And I want everybody to let that resonate a little bit. At no point does your business get on autopilot, it sounds like. Go ahead, Charity.
I was just going to plug, going off of what Skip was talking about, Prospect Square and Moxie Present. I know I'm pulling out the manager hat other than the panelist hat right now, but both really, really good tools that could help streamline that process for you, especially if you're just looking for a market report. Prospect Square does a really good one, and you could get it done a little bit quicker, and you can do it just to serve like a particular neighborhood. That's what I like about it, because you can use it for that whole neighborhood. It's not identifying one house. So if you need help figuring those out, or if you haven't gotten in there using those products yet, reach out to one of us or marketing and we'll help you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charity, for bringing those up, because those are the tools that we have available for people to be able to do those things, and they're very, very good for it. Guys, that is the key questions that I had. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for the panelists that you want to ask? No questions. I don't buy that at all. Come on now.
I think they're intimidated by the agents.
They may be.
Never be intimidated. Although it's easy, even the years we've been in business, it's very easy to be intimidated. I get intimidated by the new ideas that some of the newer agents have. I marvel at some of the videos I see that they produce, or some of the marketing ideas they'll put on social media. And so I just say never stop learning, guys. Never stop learning.
Well, I guess with the difference in the experience, Paula and Skip would have been in business before the MLS, before cell phones, pretty much before email. So they have had to kind of grow with the changes in real estate. So, kudos to them for evolving their business over the years.
Yeah, I think the key, no matter what you're doing, as we talked earlier, she likes to, can you guys hear me or did I freeze?
We hear
Yeah,
you.
we hear you. Well, now we don't.
Charity must be having some internet issues today. That happens to the best of us, unfortunately. Does anybody else have any questions or statements that they want to put in? I think Charity just popped back up. I'm not sure if she'll be able to talk or not.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I was just going to say, whatever you're going to do, the key is consistency. That's it. It doesn't matter what activity you choose or which ones you decide to go with something that works for you, but you have to keep doing it. We can't just expect our past clients to use us again if we don't keep in touch somehow, some way. So whatever that way is for you. Stay consistent. And I think, as long as you provided good service, as they talked about earlier, then they will come back to you.
And that is a painful lesson to learn, Charity. I think we've all probably had that, where we've had a former client list or sell with somebody else, and that's painful going past that house and seeing somebody else's sign there and it should have been yours. So stay in contact with your folks.
Mike, I think this is really such a good idea that you've had today to do this. I think for new agents, as managers, if we can just stress to them how important the sphere of influence is, because you can't go 2 years and then it can become insurmountable if you do a catch-up game. So I think when the closings happen, really, really teach them ahead of time that this is an important part of their business.
Absolutely. And to kind of echo all of this, keeping it manageable. What can you do consistently? That's what's manageable. If that's 10 people, 10 people's perfect. Do it the best you can.
Right.
If it's 300 people, great. Do it as consistently as you can. But you need to be able to have this group of people that you can reach out to. And the example that I make all the time, just really quickly, is when you go into the grocery store, there's 4 kinds of people. There's a bunch of people you don't know. There's a group of people that you would go out of your way. You'd walk across the store and say, man, that's Jimmy. I haven't seen Jimmy in 5 or 6 years. That was one of my best friends. You go over, how's the family? How's everybody doing? Let's get dinner. You're so excited to see them that you would go across a crowded store to say hi. There's the group of people that maybe your kids play soccer together or something. You throw your hand up and, hey, you go about your business. And then there's the group of people that you say, I don't have time for that today. And you duck down an aisle and hide. So if you take that group of people and you think of the people that you would go out of your way to say hi to, maybe it's 10 people, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100. I don't know. It's different for everybody. And you can make sure that nobody is going to take care of their real estate needs but you. You're off to a good start. And then you can grow it from there. But if you need a place to start, I think that's a really effective place to start.
And what you don't want to hear in the grocery store or anywhere is, I didn't know you were still in real estate. That is the death call. That's a dead man walking. So.
Absolutely, June. That's the truth. Steve, is there anything you want to say in closing before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you guys for putting this together. I think this was super informative. It's great to hear from the peers. I mean, we've just got such a great group of people to learn from. I know you've got a series of these coming out on different topics, so I'm excited to see what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
I am too. Great show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Paula.
Thank you for putting it together.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And thank you to the panelists for taking the time to do this today. I hope everybody has a really good day. If we can help you with anything, we're here. And we're looking forward to the next one. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.